What's up, Internet? So I'm here with my Model Y. This Model Y was manufactured in September of 2021. So I've had it for about 3.5 years, driven a lot of places with it, and it's been a fantastic vehicle. And I know based on the title of this video, you're probably wondering, why am I talking about my Model Y when the title of this vehicle is I have a problem with the SlateEV? Well, there are a number of things, but to get into it, we should probably just start by hopping in. So, as I said, I've had this vehicle now for 3.5 years. It's a 2021, it's delivered in October, and you can get a vehicle like this, almost exactly like this, for the same price as a SlateEV. And that is the main claim to fame of the SlateEV, is that it's has this really cheap, accessible price of $27,500. And if you look online, you can find Model Ys that are newer than this Model Y, that have less mileage than this Model Y. So you can find 2022 Model Ys that have, like 50,000 to 60,000 miles, some less, for $24,000, $25,000. So it really begs the question, like, if you can get a vehicle that is not decontented the way the SlateEV is for the same price today, in what world does it make sense to wait 2 years to buy a SlateEV? Because if we look at what we've got in this vehicle, we have like a navigation system. Look at this. You got a map, you've got a radio, you've got 4 doors, twice as many doors as a SlateEV. You can seat 5 passengers. That's 2.5 times as many people as you can sit in a SlateEV. This vehicle has about 290 miles of range, so you've got twice the range as a SlateEV. And this vehicle can supercharge at 250 kilowatts. So that's like twice the charging speed. You got twice the range and twice the charging speed for the same price, or lower, depending on what you find in the used market, which is crazy. And there are things that this vehicle can do that the SlateEV absolutely can't do, like this: navigate to Target in Simi Valley. Look at that. You don't get that in your SlateEV. I mean, and they even put that in there like it's some kind of, whoops, wrong Target. Navigate to Target in Simi Valley. Tierra Rajada, that's the one I want to go to because it also has a supercharger at it. So going to drive, that you've got all of these features that come with an actual infotainment system. You got cameras so you can see everywhere around you. These cameras also mean that you have a 360 dashboard, which means that you will always have the upper hand in case you get into some kind of accident or vandalism situation with Sentry Mode. It's like you're getting that for the same price. So what would make the SlateEV so special? And perhaps most importantly, you've got full self-driving. Granted, you're not going to get full self-driving with with a used Model Y for that price. It'll be a little bit more, but at least you have that optionality because you have all of these cameras that you could see around you. You don't have that in the SlateEV, which you can't even get yet. Now I know what the most common pushback is going to be, which is that, oh man, like that SlateEV, that's a new vehicle for $27,500. This is a used vehicle, and used vehicles, tend to come with all kinds of different problems, right? Well, that mindset, I mean, while there's a certain amount that's true to that, it is less true with EVs, because the main problem with used vehicles, well, I would separate it into 2 categories. One is the shopping experience. Shopping experience of a used vehicle shopping is what it is. Maybe you can get a marginally or like a better experience if you buy directly from Tesla, because Tesla has a pretty good stable of used vehicles for sale. But Tesla also, their vehicles in stock tend to be a couple thousand, say $2,000 to $4,000 more than what you can find in the open market. And if you go shopping in the open market, you've got used vehicle shopping issues, right? And you're not going to deal with that in purchasing a new vehicle, of course. But then the second issue, probably the bigger issue with used vehicles that people have, is that used vehicles could potentially have maintenance issues. Like, you will always worry if the prior owner of your used vehicle neglected a certain piece of technology or equipment in the vehicle that leaves you a landmine of cost that has to be fixed later. And that's a very big, very significant issue to worry about when you're talking about used internal combustion engine vehicles, because used internal combustion engine vehicles have thousands and thousands of moving parts, probably like 2,000, 3,000 moving parts. You open up an engine, you've got timing belts, fans, fuel injectors, spark plugs, all this other stuff that, unless you're a trained mechanic with a lot of mechanical knowledge, would have a very difficult time assessing so that you know what you're getting into when you're buying that used vehicle. But a used electric vehicle, on the other hand, a used Tesla, this thing only has a dozen moving parts. So there's very little that has to be maintained. So there's a very low chance that a prior owner could have neglected something and made a maintenance landmine for you as the used buyer. And if we look at my vehicle right here, I've got this crack in my windshield here. This crack in my windshield is the only thing that I've really had to maintain in this vehicle and fix. And I've had this vehicle for 3.5 years, and I've driven 95,000 miles. And crack in the windshield, only thing that I've had to service, maybe replace, or not maybe, I have had to replace tires. But assessing tires, assessing alignment, assessing any external or internal damage, those are relatively easy things to spot when you're used car shopping. It's not like trying to figure out which of the 1,000 different little parts in a combustion engine might or might not have been maintained or serviced over its lifetime. So the chances of you getting a really good deal with a 3-year-old used Model Y, extremely high, extremely high. So when you do that comparison, and you also look at all of this value that you're getting in this infotainment cluster, like you're actually getting a radio, you're actually getting power windows that go up and down, right? And you can carry twice as many people, you got twice as many doors, you have infinitely more storage space. If it's the same price or lower, like, it's a no-brainer to get this Model Y over the Slate EV, unless, maybe you really need a truck. But do you really? Like, are you really getting that much utility out of a Slate EV? Because when you look at the specs, the Slate EV is said to have a payload capacity of 1,000 pounds or 1,500 pounds, and it can tow 1,000 pounds. So you combine that together, you got a total cargo of 2,500 pounds. This Model Y can tow 3,500 pounds, 3,500 pound trailer. So if you're a gardener, right, you do a lot of gardening and landscaping at your house, or a property that you own or something, right? You could get this Model Y and a trailer that you can put 2,500 pounds of stuff into, and that will be more utility, more use case, a better fit, more likely for your needs than the Slate EV. Not to mention that you could potentially buy that Model Y and that cargo trailer together for less cost than $27,500. Not in 2027 when the Slate EV comes out, but today. So when you put all that together, I really don't understand what the hype for the Slate EV is, other than, new product hype, marketing, people on social media blowing it up, whatever. Or it could be like one of these light phone situations where the product is the idea of the minimalism in of itself. And for those of you who don't know, maybe you can look it up. There's this product called the light phone, which it's supposed to cater to minimalists who want a decontented smartphone. They want a decontented smartphone that has as few apps as possible, as few distractions as possible, and it has a lot of the same appeal as the Slate EV, where the Slate EV doesn't have an infotainment cluster, doesn't have a radio, it's been stripped down to the bare bones. But with something like the Slate EV and like the light phone, it's almost like taking minimalism to an illogical extreme. And typically that's something I would respect, because I tend to think of myself as someone who's kind of minimalistic in terms of like, I don't like owning a lot of things, which is ironic because I have stuff in the car that I'm moving today. But with something like that is that decontented, that Slate EV is that decontented, or the light phone is that decontented, they fall into the same problem, which is that they're selling you on the minimalism to the point where they're not actually charging less for how much less you get. Like the Slate EV, for how little you get with that vehicle, only 140 miles of range, no radio, no powered windows, only seats too, that vehicle should cost like $16,000, $18,000. It should not have a sticker price of $27,500. Because once again, the crux of my whole reaction here is, at that price point, $27,500, you get this vehicle right here, which is capable of driving itself. Like, make it make sense to me. I don't know. Anyone who wants to hop into the comments, anyone who's a big fan of Slate EV, like, tell me what the use case is. What is it about this thing that makes it worth it? And if it really is just a vibe, like you just want to pay more for less because that's the sort of minimalist you are, I mean, I guess I respect you, more power to you, but most people aren't going to go for that.